Here I am, climbing up, feeling great, getting love. Here I go, risk it all, be worth it now, and that's for sure. Watch me as I rock it team.
All right, episode 30 of Fight Talk Down Under is brought to you by CMBT. Go to cmbt.com.au for all your nutrition needs, protein powder, protein bars, pre-workout, all that good stuff. Go to cmbt.com.au, use the promo code Justin for 10% off at the checkout. That's cmbt.com.au, promo code Justin. We're also brought to you by Nutcare. Now, the fact is, research has shown 83% of penile injuries involve a razor. Well, it doesn't have to be this way, guys. Bare Nuts Hair Removal Cream is specifically formulated for sensitive areas such as your nuts. So go to nutcare.com.au, use the promo code FIGHTNEWS for 10% off at the checkout. That's nutcare.com.au, promo code FIGHTNEWS. All right, welcome everyone. Of course, I'm Dan from Fight News Australia, and of course, my co-host, it has recently been revealed, is now fighting Diego Pereira for the vacant Eternal Featherweight title at Eternal 72 on December 2nd. I speak, of course, of Lockjaw Justin Van Heerden. How are you, mate?
Good. Can't complain. So, it's rescheduled the fight now. We're on in December, so it's going to be a wild one. It's, some of the fights that's already been coming together. I'm stoked to be part of that card, and hopefully I get to sort of catch some of the action on the night before I go do business.
Absolutely. And the ribs all good? You're back on the grind?
Yeah, we're pretty much pretty much fully cleared now. So we're like I've got like one more sort of checkup to do with the guys from Baymed and the doctor and that, and then we're pretty much rolling. So then we're stuck in and back into a hard camp.
Awesome. Well, today, of course, we've got a special episode. We're here to talk about the life of a promoter. Now, it's obviously one of the toughest gigs in MMA. I know, Justin likes to whinge about how hard it is being a fighter. He says, I have to fight tough guys like Alan Philpott all the time. It's a tough gig, but promoters have it pretty tough, and of course, I might have to learn to add subtitles to these videos. But of course, who better to lend his experience than the man behind Eternal MMA? It's Mr. Cam O'Neill. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. I'll try and speak slow. I'll try and speak slow and clear. See if everybody can understand me better.
Awesome, thank you.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure to have you here, mate. It's going to be a fun one. So. Before we sort of kick off, talk about Eternal and all that, can you tell us a little bit about your sort of background and how you wound up in this crazy profession?
Well, I sometimes ask myself that as well and look back and think it was the right choice. I was a lifelong martial artist, done a lot of different martial arts. I was far too old by the time MMA was coming around to make any sort of proper go at having any sort of fight career. So I thought, what's the next best thing? I had been involved in a few shows back in the UK in different capacities and come over to Australia and thought to myself, I'll give it a crack here as well and see how we go. 13 years later, here we are.
Absolutely, and there you go. So obviously 10 years of Eternal MMA was recently celebrated with a double header, Eternal 69 and 70. So how do you how do you reflect on the first 10 years and of course the 10-year anniversary celebrations?
It was fantastic actually having that that weekend there with the double header. It was a fantastic achievement for any business in Australia, especially recently, getting to the 10-year mark. So one that depends upon audience and ticket sales coming through the pandemic and obviously getting to the 10-year mark. I was very proud of that. There was some tough times, etc. But the weekend that we had just there was a good celebration of it. All the correct people were there. A lot of people who had helped me out at the very first show were in the crowd and in attendance. And a lot of the other people that were involved in the first show were still involved in the 10-year anniversary for 69 and 70. So it was excellent. It was really good.
Awesome. And you sort of touched on the pen. Sorry, you go.
I was just disappointed that we didn't get anybody who'd fought in the first show still available to fight in the 10-year anniversary. There were a couple of candidates, but we just couldn't make anything happen. But that would have been pretty special.
Yeah, that would have been pretty cool. Would have been pretty cool. But yeah, you sort of touched on the pandemic there. Obviously, COVID was a pretty tough time to be a promoter. Eternal seemed to hold up a little bit better than most, but yeah, you must have some war stories from those years.
Yeah, look, I don't know how we done it, to be perfectly honest. It was probably a mix of luck, uh, a mix of luck, perseverance, and stubbornness. I think that was the three things that got us through. There was a lot of timings that just worked out nicely for us, but there was a lot of things that went wrong for us as well. For example, the start of this year, we were 6 days out from the first show of the year in Perth when the border was meant to be opening and they didn't open it. They left it closed, so we lost that show. So even at the start of this year, we were still getting affected by it. But we just had to keep replanning and moving events forward. We were lucky enough that we operate in multiple locations, and when one area started getting a little bit sticky, we could reschedule an event and put it in one of the other locations. So yeah, look, it worked out well.
Yeah. Speaking of other locations, from a purely selfish perspective, have you got any sort of plans to come back to Melbourne?
No, not Melbourne at the moment. No, we're not looking to come to Melbourne at the moment. It's a very difficult market, Melbourne. We had a show obviously planned there this year that we did cancel as well. But just looking at a couple of other events that are down there just now, none of them are doing very well. None of them are selling a lot of tickets, and as I say, it's a very difficult market to operate in. There are a lot of other shows down there. There's a little bit of hostile between them. Everybody's scrambling for the same fighters and the same crowds and the same dates, and we're better than you and you're better than them and this type of stuff. So we'll leave Melbourne to it just now. And when that area starts to kind of even out again, well, maybe 2023, 2024, we might look at going back down there. We do have other locations that we're looking at just now, but Melbourne's not one of them.
Yeah, right. Bugger. Well, is hostility between promoters, is that a real thing? Is there a bit of sort of argy-bargy when you sort of push into someone else's territory?
Well, sorry, that was probably the wrong word. When I was saying hostility, I was meaning that we were all chasing after the same sort of fighters that were popular in that area. You've obviously got to get the right people on the events down there so you can sell the tickets. So that's what I meant. There's no hostility as in anything like that. But
right, there you
just
go.
healthy competitiveness.
Yeah, there we go. I thought we were about to uncover something pretty cool there, but no, that's, that's disappointing.
That's your imagination getting the better of you. I wish it was that exciting. It's not. It's pretty boring, actually.
There you go. Well, of course, you're going to close out the year with a couple of big events. We've got Eternal 71 coming up on October 21. The main event, of course, is Sean Etchell versus Rod Costa for the bantamweight title. So you must be in sort of in full swing, getting ready for that one.
Yeah, that's sorry, I'll just correct you. That's October 29 over in Perth. So that's the end of this month. But yeah, we've got Sean Etchell and Rod Costa fighting for the bantamweight title there. The title which Sean Etchell held and didn't lose, vacated it to go chasing road to UFC in Singapore. Unfortunately, on this occasion, things didn't work out for Sean there. But he's back here in Australia, wanting to keep active, get a few more wins and see where it takes him. Rod Costa standing across from him is obviously a formidable foe. He's probably, him and Justin have definitely been the two most active fighters in Australia in the last couple of years, that's for sure. And both of them operating across a couple of weight classes, and neither of them saying no to any opponent. So Rod's came a long way since he came back after his long hiatus from MMA, and he's adapted a striking game into his MMA as well, which makes it really quite a test for anyone. But Sean Etchell's proved it time and time again. His pace and his intensity and his durability. He just wears people down. And just the buzzsaw is such a good name for him. So I'm really excited for this one. I think this could be a cracker. And Rod's obviously a huge fan favourite in Perth, a great following. And Sean Etchell's one of our most popular fighters, no matter where we go. So yeah, this one's going to be pretty hype.
Yeah, it's a huge one. He's obviously, the promoter's dream, right? Rod Costa. We don't want to pump up Justin too much, but he's one of those guys that you can just pick up the phone and they're going to sort of come through for you. So yeah, he must be a good one.
It's not just that, and he does have other synergies with Justin as well. Rod Costa will call a spade, and Justin will call a spade as well. Neither of them will hide behind anything. They won't hide behind any excuses for fights, and they won't hide behind keyboards either. So they are both promoters' dreams, to tell you the truth.
Absolutely. And then, of course, you got Eternal 72, which we sort of touched on before, December 2nd, if I haven't got the date wrong this time. Obviously, nailed it. Research win, that one. But obviously a stacked card as well. You got John Martin Fraser, a rematch with Matt Myers for the title this time. Obviously, the smiling assassin Dave Martinez is putting his belt on the line against Blake Donnelly, and then got this ugly mug on the right of screen there taking on Diego Pereira. So it's all happening for that one. So tell us a little bit about that card and how that one's coming together.
Yeah, this card's probably, I would say at the moment, heading towards being the best card we've ever done. You just mentioned the 3 title fights at the top of it there. Either of the fights, could be main events at any Eternal show in Australia. But the fact the 3 of them on the one main card, it's just such a bonus for people who turn up to watch it and people who tune in to watch it on TV, which I'm pretty sure, the place will sell out weeks in advance because there's some other absolutely huge fights still to announce. But very interesting 3 title fights that are all rematches. So, there's a lot of water under the bridge with a couple of them. And there's one of them like John Martin Fraser and Matt Myers, which is very fresh, but they had very unique circumstances with a strange weight class and the short notice fight for both of them. They both basically accepted an opponent in short notice. Matt was in camp, John wasn't, but, size and experience goes to John there. So that was a fight that we had to make again. But I mean, even some of the other fights we've released in that card, we'll get Dimps Gillies dropping down to featherweight to fight Muhammad Alavi as well, and we'll get Tim Schultz and Yam Steven announced so far. So that's 5 fights that we've announced so far out of 8 pro fights that we've got locked in at the moment. So this card's going to be pretty special.
Absolutely. And how did you feel about the decision between John Fraser and Matt Myers the first time around? I've sort of heard a bit of debate since that fight went down.
Look, I think it was a close fight, but I definitely think that I think the decision was right, but it definitely was a close fight. I think the only thing that happened there was both the boys' stock went up. Matt Myers is, his stock with me has obviously went through the roof. The fact that he stepped up and took the fight in the first place, and then to compete the way that he did and be razor close in losing the decision was, very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going pretty well when you got Dimps Gillies on the second fight of the night. That's he's obviously coming off a huge fight against Josh Coon, so that's a win as well.
Yeah, and look, he's dropping down to featherweight, which is pretty mad when you think about it. Dimps started his career at heavyweight. Dimps started his career at heavyweight. I'm pretty sure he's knocked somebody out at every single weight class from heavyweight to lightweight, and now he's dropping down to featherweight. It's insane. I remember Dimps when I had him fight middleweight against Dante Jackson up in the Mansfield Tavern. And the size difference of the 2 guys, and Dimps went the distance, and he was clearly undersized and not training the way that he is now. And I said to him there when he was middleweight, I says, "You're a featherweight fighting middleweights up here. You need to take this a bit more seriously, and you could be as fantastic, which he's turned out to be." So it's exciting to see him going down to featherweight, and he's got so much power that I think he's going to be a problem for anyone. Muhammad Alavi is obviously hugely experienced. He's only got the 1 loss on his record to Justin as well. It's a really interesting fight, actually. 2 completely different types of fighters, 2 completely different skill sets, and I think it's another one that's going to be a potential fight of the year. There's not a fight in this card that doesn't have potential to be fight of the year.
Absolutely. Lockjaw, you got a close eye on this one?
Yeah, obviously I'm gonna, I'm just from a fan point of view, that's going to be a cool fight to watch because, like Cam sort of said, Dimps is just one of those people that, like, I was at that show, I fought on that card that he fought Dante Jackson on, and I had to watch that fight live, and it was like I was telling people, like, if you thought the fight with Josh Coon was crazy, picture that same fight, but he's fighting a dude that's like 4 times bigger than him. Like, it's insane. I always like watching Dimps fight. But yeah, as a fan, I want to see this fight play out because obviously, they're both guys pack power. Alavi's so explosive, so it's going to be crazy to see how it pans out, and it's going to be crazy to see if Alavi decides to mix in the wrestling, because obviously the guy can wrestle too. At the end of the day, he's got that background behind him. But I think for my money, I think both guys are just going to meet in the middle and smash into each other, and it's going to depend on who can put the hurt on the other guy more. I think Dimsk has shown he's durable. So, and then from like a competitor point of view of someone, a guy that I already fought, and then a guy I could potentially fight still. Yeah, I guess I'll be sort of interested in watching it in that sense as well. But yeah, it'd be cool to see. I mean, props to Dimso. You dropping down to featherweight in the first fight you take is someone like Alavi. Not many people would do that. Obviously, yeah. From my money, I don't see. There's still featherweights that are more experienced, or people that are more experienced that probably wouldn't want to fight him. So, yeah, that's mental. But you can't expect anything less from Dims.
Yeah, hey, featherweight division's on fire just now. The two best divisions in Australia is the featherweight and the lightweight. Some of the names that Justin was dropping there, and some of the other ones that are on this card as well. Featherweight division at the top end's absolutely stacked. We've got another featherweight pro fight to announce as well in the coming days, which is pretty good. Pretty fucking good, and it'll get everybody excited as well. So, featherweight division, lightweight division in Australia just now is absolutely on fire.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't feel like sharing it tonight on Fight Talk Down Under?
No, not yet.
I had to ask. It was worth a try.
It's worth asking.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, and anyway, obviously, your daughter Casey's been on a bit of a tear in the UFC. She's recovering from, I think, an ACL that suffered back in April. So, how's she coming along, and when can we sort of expect to see her back in action?
Well, she's 4 months post ACL surgery now. Just last week, she got all clear to go back to striking training, hitting pads, doing certain drills. She's not got the clear to do grappling or jiu-jitsu yet. Probably looking another 2 weeks to a month to do that. So, look, her recovery and her rehab's coming along very well at the moment. She just got to, trust the process. It's just time. That's all it takes is time and carrying out the exercises and the movements and the motions that you're meant to do. But yeah, look, she was looking very good at 9-0, and she had a very good opponent lined up before she got injured. So it's unfortunate she got the injury when she did, but it's fortunate that she was so young when it was such a serious injury.
Yeah.
You're normally looking at a minimum of 9 months to 12 months recovery, but we think she's going to be ready to go in either February or March of next year. So that's what we're looking at.
Awesome. I've heard she's a bit of a gym rat. So how did she survive not being able to sort of train and, being sort of, on the road to recovery?
Oh, well, she's still training. She's still doing 3 a days, but she's got a rehab in there, replacing one of the sessions, and the other sessions are based around about mobility and strength. So she's still getting hours in. It's just frustrating that it's not the work that she wants to be doing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into some fan questions, Lockjaw, have you got anything you want to put to Cam?
Yeah, I guess. Well, obviously this came together, so we got you on here and everything like that. But I guess what my question is, the state of Aussie MMA as a whole, where it's at now, do you think that it's trekking in the right direction, like collectively as a whole? I mean, with the amateur talent you got coming through, with the current state, with all the pros and that, like you said, you touched on, the featherweight and lightweight divisions in Eternal are pretty stacked, and there's a lot happening. But like, I mean, across the board, do you think Aussie MMA is in like a really good place and it's like booming up, or do you think that there's still work that needs to be done across the board?
It's a good question, and look, there's a huge spectrum that you could cover there. As a whole, I think Aussie MMA's we're definitely overperforming on a world stage compared to the resources that we've got to work with at a national level. It's testament to each one of the athletes that are out there on the world stage competing the way that they are, because the support system at the grassroots here is pretty awful, and people have got quite a long lonely journey, which they need to make a lot of sacrifices on to get there. But so look, they guys are all overperforming, but as a whole, you know, as I said, the featherweight and the lightweight divisions are absolutely stacked and on fire. But the problem with Australia is there isn't depth in any division. You know, the featherweight and the lightweight divisions are on fire because they've got bodies that are active in them. You know, there's some of these other divisions that have hardly got anybody active in them. For example, got a flyweight, got a very good flyweight that I'm looking to match for October 29 or for December 2nd. And when you jump on and look at how many active pro flyweights there actually are in Australia, there's probably 6. You know, and it's, you ask yourself the question, you know, how can these guys actually get the experience and build up the record and whatnot to the point that the likes of Stephen Erseg at 8-1 has done, you know, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of sacrifices, but there could be a lot better infrastructure, you know, to get them their fights. And the same in the middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight division, you know, their divisions are empty as well. So, like, overall, I definitely think the Australian MMA scene's overperforming. There's a lot of things that hold the country back as a whole. A lot of the states with the different amateur rules from state to state, because of the way the Combat Sports Commission operates, causes a lot of confusion, and obviously looks very different and sometimes is very different. I think if everybody was on the same page in terms of an amateur rule set, or maybe even 2 different tiers of amateur rule set before they go pro, and that was a nationwide thing with a nationwide body looking after the regulation of the officiating, the medicals and the registration, etc. I think that would definitely really help the scene, and it would really help people's barrier to entry. You know, it would definitely lower the barrier to entry if there was a national body pushing all of that. The problem is these state combat sports commissions don't really talk to each other. At the top end, though, you know, there's just a load of shows all just doing whatever the fuck they want, you know, and it's varying. You've got varying levels of quality of fight, experience and performance. You know, it's as simple as that. You know, you can go to shows in a pub that's charging the same money as what we are charging to sit in a VIP seat in Eternal and watch, you know, the best produced and the best talent in Australia. So it's hit and miss across the country, and yet again that comes down to, you know, the fact that every single state operates completely differently, and there's no real hierarchy of fighter based upon meritocracy, you know, because people are jumping from promotion to promotion. They'll fight a guy, you know, they'll have 5 fights, and they'll maybe fight a guy who's had 1 fight one time, then they'll jump to another promotion and fight a guy who's had 8 fights. And, you know, it starts getting very difficult to actually work out, you know, a proper hierarchy in the each division in the country, and then work out an integrity of the titles that these guys have, which is why we try and build exclusive fighters, keep them active in the divisions against 50-50 competitive matches, so that it is, the hierarchy is meritocracy, and the people who do get to the top and fight for the titles have got there through their own blood, sweat and tears, basically, over the years, you know, to get them in that position. So that's how I feel the Eternal belts definitely have a lot more integrity than everyone else elsewhere. But it doesn't mean there's not good fights elsewhere. You know, there are some cracking fights in some of these other shows, but there's some very, very dodgy ones as well. I think the issue is that it's so inconsistent. You know, I think that's the main issue that we've got. And that's, you know, there's a lot of factors that play into that. We're probably the most expensive country in the world to operate a fight promotion in. Everyone's geographically displaced, and, you know, the amount of population in this country compared to some of these other countries mean that the talent pool is so little that we're all fishing from, and the cost of getting them to fights and the chance of them bringing supporters with them is so expensive and so little. So look, I think every promoter out there is doing the very best they can, but as I say, you know, some of them are doing the right thing because they're trying to do the right thing, and it's just some of them aren't doing the right thing.
Do you think there's potential for there to be like one sort of overarching sort of commission in Australia? Is that sort of something as a promoter that you can sort of I don't know, kind of get involved with and sort of lobby for, or do you just kind of look after your own
No,
backyard?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't get, because we've got to try and stay independent of all types of regulation and officiating. So we wouldn't get involved in it. We would welcome a national body that overseen the full sport. I don't think it's going to happen though, simply because as individual states combat sports commissions that look after it. So I don't think it is going to happen. Even if they could all just agree on the same rule set, it would be a huge move forward as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And on a side note, you touched on Steve Erceg there as well. He obviously sort of missed his shot on Dana White's Contender Series through I think it was a visa issue in the end. Is he sort of looking to come back? Because I think Dana White's Contender Series is wrapped up now for the season. So is he sort of looking to come back to Eternal? Is there anything? Have you spoken to him?
Yeah, this is Steve Erceg was really unlucky in my opinion. Steve Erceg was he was like the number one seed from Australia that was due to be in Contender Series this season. I think we done very well in Contender Series this season with the amount of people that we had in it, and not just the results but the performances as well. And with Shannon Ross, with the result not going his way, but his performance impressed people that much, obviously, that they decided to have him in there. But I think Stephen Erceg would have been a fantastic addition to a Contender Series, and I've got no idea who's due to fight or what happened there, but I fully have expected Stephen to have got a contract and have done very well in the flyweight division in the UFC. He really is that good, in my opinion.
Absolutely, and of course, last week we saw Jack Jenkins, the now former Eternal featherweight champion on Dana White's Contender Series. Obviously, he was successful against Freddie Emiliano Linares via third round TKO. Got the contract. Apparently, Dana White wasn't that keen to give him a contract, but someone tapped him on the shoulder and told him that Jack Jenkins was a gun kickboxer as well. So he decided to take a punt. But what do you make of Jack's performance?
Well, it was fantastic to see Jack on Contender Series. It was just disappointing that I hadn't seen him fighting Justin first, though. That was a fight I was really excited for. But to see Jack on Contender Series, to get the win, to get the finish, and to get the contract was fantastic. We've all got to get behind all the Aussies that get through. And Jack went into that Contender Series fight after. He had heard for a long time that he was in the running to get a shot on the Contender Series, and he must have been thinking in his own mind, this wasn't going to be his year. But for him to get the call up quite late on, and then to get on the last event of the season, and then for him to get the contract, the win, the finish, and the contract, it's a dream come true for him. It didn't, he didn't look like the Jack Jenkins that's fought the last 2 or 3 times on Eternal as well. There was flashes of the explosiveness and the kickboxing. He threw a huge kick across the midriff of his opponent. I think it was in the second round as well, which made him draw breath as I seen it. But he was completely dominant, and he made an absolute mess of his opponent's face. I think there was absolutely no doubt that the kid went in there and done everything that he was meant to do to get the job done. So congrats and well done. Fantastic to have another Australian in there, never mind a former Eternal champion.
Absolutely, and they say a rising tide lifts all ships, right? So how does that sort of help you as a promotion, and help the sort of I guess the scene in Australia to sort of have another Aussie and a former Eternal champion going and impressing on the world stage?
Oh, it's hugely important for everybody. It's hugely important for the sport in this area as well, because just that one episode of Contender Series alone, there might have been some people in Melbourne that know Jack or whatever, that said family, friends, or just other people watch the fight, that all of a sudden now become huge Jack Jenkins fans and huge MMA fans, and then their kids go and join a gym, and it's a circle of life thing. The more people that we put from Australia into the bright lights, the more people in Australia that's going to start looking at the sport and looking at these guys, and the more attention they get and the more popularity they get, the better they're going to do as well. Everybody knows that, when you're in the UFC and you're in a promotion like that, sometimes winning alone isn't everything. You've got to have that huge popularity and backing behind you as well at the top level. And people like Jack Jenkins, who's a fantastic guy, he's got the charisma and the personality and the whole of Bacchus Marsh and Melbourne behind him. So he's a fantastic ambassador for MMA in Australia, as are everyone that seems to go.
Definitely, Lockjaw. You've been booked to face Jack Jenkins a couple of times, so you know him fairly well. What did you make of his his performance and earning the contract?
Yeah, obviously, like we sort of touched on, it's always going to be. I mean, at the end of the day, when you look at it on the sort of grassroots level or the regional level where we're at now, obviously we're all kind of out there competing. And we're sort of getting after it, and we're looking to take food off each other's table, for lack of better words. But at the end of the day, like when we see when someone does get that call up or they get signed or whatever, it elevates everything else, because that's what we want. We want to at some point, like, we've all got to fight each other to sort of separate ourselves from the pack, but we need each other to be able to do that. And then, so regardless of someone's like, someone that you're meant to fight or you have fought them or whatever, if someone gets to that point, it does elevate the sport as a whole. And I think you sort of see that trickle down, and then you see that trickle down all the way to the amateur level. Because like Cam was saying, he might have some teammates that are fighting at an amateur level who get pumped up by the fact that they just saw him get signed to the UFC, and then they're going to go out there and sort of push the envelope a bit more. But it was cool to watch. I watched it, and obviously a different sort of performance in what we'd expect stylistically from Jack. But just shows, just kind of shows sometimes you just got to make those little adjustments and kind of run with what's working. And I guess for people who aren't really too involved in the sport, it's probably hard to appreciate. But if you're in a fight and your sort of direct route to victory falls off the table and it's not available to you, and you have to make those adjustments and change things up, that's a credit in itself. Like, for 3 rounds, that dude went to a wrestling, grappling heavy sort of performance, he was able to sort of put a hurt on this guy, get the win, and then stop him late in the fight. And that's a credit in itself, because not a lot of people could do that. When plan A goes out the window, we've seen so many people, they shut down, and it'd be very possible for that to be the case. You get overwhelmed by the experience, you get overwhelmed by the size of the moment that you're in. You're fighting for in contender for a contract. It would have been very simple for Jack to just switch off and for things to go out the window, but he didn't. He adjusted and got the win, and it was cool to watch. Obviously, me being selfish and as like a fan of the sport, I would have loved to see him just do the work that he sort of did, similar to the Rod Costa fight or the Jesse Medina fight, where, he was able to sort of tee off, land combinations, kind of push the pace that way, and maybe get a knockout or something like that. Like, that would have been sort of how I wanted to see it play out. But it's cool to see another Aussie in the UFC. And I guess from my point of view, it kind of takes the fact that, where obviously we didn't get the fight, so that sucks. Like, that's a fight that I really wanted to have. I think, Jack and I are both competitors, and would have been crazy. In my opinion, it would have been probably the biggest fight in Australian MMA history, just based on the hype around it alone.
We had such good promo to go for it as well. Get to use it.
The one that got away.
Yeah, again. But no, look, guys, it's fantastic. The more Australians that we get into the UFC, and the better that they do. We need to get the mainstream media more interested in these people's stories, and more interested in the sport as well. Because it's one thing that's really lacking in this country, is the support from mainstream media and mainstream broadcasters. We're really not looked at at all. We don't really get any coverage, which is fantastic, that we get it from you guys, Dan, at Fight News Australia, etc. But we really could do with a lot more mainstream coverage, to get some of these people who have never witnessed the sport in Australia, or don't even know that there is a fantastic sport in Australia that they could follow.
And how do we achieve that? Like, the only time I've seen Eternal get any sort of coverage, like by News Corp or something like that, is when Jack Becker broke his leg. So, how do you think we achieve it? How do you sort of how do you get the scene out there in the widespread media?
We're just want somebody to take one for the team every event.
Need someone to break a leg.
Somebody to take some sort of viral injury. But no, look, it's horrific that that's the type of thing that has to happen to get any type of viral media around about the sport at a local level in Australia. But It's good to know that Jack's, fully recovered and going through his rehab just now, and we'll be back fighting next year. But as I say, it's not a nice thought to think that that's what's got to happen for it to get some mainstream attention.
Yeah, so what do we have to do? Like, how do we get the word out there? How do we sort of turn the heads of the mainstream media?
We just got to keep working away and keep sending out our press releases and keep hitting up our mailing list and keep chipping away at it. We'll get there. It's just taking time.
Absolutely. Lockjaw, you got anything for Cam?
I think probably, I mean, kind of that leads into sort of, I guess, what I was kind of thinking about asking anyway. But so then when we have people obviously from the regional level, they take those leaps, they step up, they get to like the top level and they start competing. And obviously, you got people there now, like obviously Jack just got signed. You have like, see Casey's doing good work. You've got Jack Della doing good work. And these people are like, obviously, and they had their runs on Eternal and in Australia to set themselves up to get to that point. So like, do you think that the more people that, I guess, build their foundation in Australia on Eternal, and then they do go on to bigger and brighter things, whether it is not just the UFC, it could be PFL, it could be Bellator, it could be One Championship, whatever it is. Do you think, is there like a number that you think we have to get to, like, of people that are on that top level before it starts getting that more recognition? Or do you think it's got to trickle down from an even, higher level than that? Like, do they have to start? Does the mainstream media have to start, covering more people like Volko for it to trickle down, and then they go, oh, but actually we've got 20 other people that are fighting in the top level, like, and they're all Australian athletes and they're all killing it on the world stage. Like, does it have to trickle down, or do you think that it's just a case of just pressing on?
I think we've just got to keep pressing on. There always is going to be the trickle down in anything, and the more top heavy it's loaded, the more trickle down that there will be. And rightly so, Volk gets so much press coverage and so much attention, and he should actually be getting more than what he gets. I really think that he doesn't get the attention that he deserves. He is, in my opinion, the number one pound for pound fight on the planet. He probably is, and every other list out there, whether it be the UFC list or any of the media lists. So, he's the one guy that every media member in the sport and the world should be looking to talk to. And we've got a lot of people in this region who are just underneath that level as well. We've obviously got Izzy at the same, just underneath him at number 2 pound for pound, that the whole world and the media looks at as well. So he gets some good trickle down. We get some good trickle down from Volk. Jack Della, obviously, and Casey both coming from Eternal before. We get some good trickle down from that. We actually get some really good trickle down from Casey. In a lot of ways, simply because she's my daughter as well. But look, it doesn't going to take a magic number. That's not what it's going to take. It's like that leg break of Jack Becker's. It could just take one moment. It could just. I don't mean it in a bad way. Like it could be a leg break. It could be, it could be one viral highlight reel KO. From somewhere as well, or something that really humanizes, a person that's in the sport in this area that the world gets a hold of. So I don't think it's going to be any number of people, but I think we're just going to have to keep chipping away, and eventually something will happen that that helps us get a little bit more coverage.
Yeah, well, one promotion, another promotion recently sort of tried to move the needle by sort of pitting some TikTok influencers against each other. Do you think does that sort of stuff is that a hindrance or a help? That sort of stuff, is it sort of turning heads, or is it just kind of making a mockery?
Well, I don't know the promotion you're talking about or anything, but anyway, it's not my thing. It's not what we're going to do. I think. If it was successful, everybody get paid and nobody get hurt, then it's a good thing, isn't it? And nobody wanted their money back or thought it was shit. So if that happened, if everybody went home happy and unhurt and everybody get paid, then it was a good thing. But it's not my jam. We're trying to build integrity, as I was saying, in the hierarchy of what we want to put together in terms of rankings for divisions in Eternal. Simply because some of them will get more people than others, there won't be rankings in every division, and we won't have exclusive athletes in every division. We'll we'll have the divisions that we're able to keep people active in have rankings and have a hierarchy like that. So, we're not looking to do any comedy fights or any memes or any influencer fights or anything like that. We're just going to stick to our model, which has been since day one, is, put two people together that are competitively matched, that the fight's relevant in terms of moving them forward in the division that they're in. And let's go from there. Let's get some good fights.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we had enough trouble getting you to click the link to to jump on this podcast, so we're not expecting any memes or anything of that nature.
We're not doing any of these, with influencers or YouTubers or anything like that, or even some of the people that you see that do tradie wars or and things like this, or bucket list and stuff like that. They've all got their place, of course they have. There's a market for them. There's people that want to compete in them and do them. And good luck to everyone, as I say, as long as everybody gets home healthy and safe and everybody gets paid, they've done well. But it's not my jam, it's not what I'm doing. And then I think you were saying earlier, about hostility. I don't have a problem with anybody else doing any type of promoting or anything like that. It's not an easiest gig in the world. I don't know if it's the hardest gig in the world. Some days it feels like it, but I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of people worse off than me, even in my worst day. But no, I know if they're all doing the right thing, I don't give a fuck. But it's the ones that are out there that aren't doing the right thing, that are bad mouthing me and saying that they're this and saying that they're that, and that's the ones that I'm not a huge fan of.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a bunch of fan questions. We did put it out on Instagram to see if anyone wanted to put anything to you, and we got a decent response. So, the first one was, Eternal, obviously, as we touched on earlier, it celebrated its 10th year anniversary recently. So, what's your vision for the next 10?
We're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're just going to keep turning out fights, at least 10 events a year, putting on the same quality of events that we're putting on, and we're just going to try and look to build out each of the divisions that we can and grow the sport in this region. I think we have noticed over the last 10 years is that the number of pros that are now available in this region is starting to grow, because there are more opportunities for them, because we are having 10 events a year, and there's a lot of other events out there as well. Pros aren't just giving up now, when they can't get opportunities. Everyone's staying a lot more active, and that's, like we were talking about earlier on, it's rising the level across everybody in all divisions. So we're just going to keep doing that. We're going to try and look to keep developing some of the broadcast partnerships that we've got to further our reach, through streaming platforms and through other types of broadcast methods that we're looking into just now. So other than that, we're just going to keep doing what we do every single day.
Awesome. And next question was, do you have days where you just think, fuck this promoter business off?
Often think that multiple times in the same day, actually. But yeah, of course. And I think every promoter does. We're dealing with so many factors out with our control at every single point in time. It's mayhem. I don't know why anybody would want to do this for a job. I really don't. It used to be shit when I done it as a hobby, when I had a real job. But now when I do it as a job, it's even shitter. But I fucking love it.
Absolutely. Were there ever times where you did actually think about pulling the pin, like through through the COVID era or anything like that?
No.
There you go. And how long did you do it before you kind of were able to sort of do it full time?
Well, this is my second run at going full time. I went full time before earlier on, and it was a little bit premature. That was before we had any type of broadcast partnership in place. I just thought that I was going all in anyway, so I might as well cut my life back a little bit and my spending habits and give it a crack. So I went a couple of years previously full time. Then as the show was looking to grow, obviously I needed to be able to fund it somehow. So back to work I went, and we're lucky enough now that with the way that shows are going for us and the way that the company's going, that I've managed to be full time now. This is my third year.
Awesome. And another question was, the term "fighters fight" is something that seems pretty straightforward. But in your time, would you say it's sort of maintained, or are fighters like this few and far between?
Fighters like that are few and far between.
Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah.
I think said it it's fuck. There's people out there saying every week that they can't get fights, and and I'm not.
Oh.
If anybody is out there and they've said recently they can't get fights, this isn't purely aimed at you guys. I'm talking generally. I've seen it for years. I offer people fights all the time, and 2 weeks later, you see they've turned them down. You see them on Facebook saying that they can't get fights, but I don't even, it doesn't even bother me anymore. It used to frustrate me and say to myself, fuck, I offered you fights, offered you 3 fights, and I text them and say that. See, now I just like, fuck, this guy. Over the years, a lot of things, just go over your head, but, there's a lot of things that I did just start to get, shrug my shoulders at. They're part of the game, part of the business. This is what happens. Over the years that just recently I've started changing my mind on, and I'm just going to change our business model a little bit so that I don't have to shrug my shoulders and things aren't going to happen. I don't know how much I want to go into it a little bit, but, as you say, fighters fight. There's a lot more that we want from fighters other than them just to fight. There's a whole process involved in them being involved in an event, and not just an eternal event, and any event that they're in. They're going into an agreement with the promoter who signs them that yes, they're going to turn up on time, on weight, and they're going to turn up the next night and fight. And that promoter's investing a lot of money in that person, whether they know that or whether they don't know that. If they're an amateur, you're still getting a lot of money invested in you. The referees weren't free, that cage wasn't free, that fancy video and the lights that you've got above your head weren't free. So it's you're entering into a bit of an agreement with the promoter there that you'll do your best to cover at least your portion of the fight as well. And these days that's not happening the way that it used to happen at certain levels. And I don't know if it, I don't know where that's coming from, but I'm not going to bother with it anymore. I'm going to concentrate more with Eternal on the fighters who are more experienced, the fighters who we can build a profile on, and they know that this is a team effort. We're going to invest in you. We believe in you. We want you to go out there and perform, win or lose. We'll have you back, and we'll give you a platform to perform on, and we'll give you opponents to compete against that are competitively matched. So we're going to concentrate on that type of stuff now, rather than filling the card with as many fights as we can, and then being frustrated at 2 or 3 guys at the bottom end of the card not realising what the deal is. So we're going to remove that frustration from it and concentrate a little bit more on promoting the guys who want to get promoted.
So quality over quantity, I guess.
Yeah, so I don't know how we got that from Fighters Fight, but being a fighter is a lot more than just putting a post on Facebook and turning up. It's there's a lot of sacrifices there. I think Justin's the one that'll tell you that. But there's a lot of guys out there, as I say, that say they fighters fight, but they're turning down fights every week. That's their choice.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And I guess another question. Who are your top 3 Aussie fighters to watch on the Aussie scene?
Steve Erceg, of course. It's as I say, we thought he was bound for greater things this year, but it's not going to be. I believe it's only going to be postponed. I reckon if he is going to have to get another fight in Australia, then he's the one to watch, and I'd imagine him to move forward next year. Other than that, there's so many. There's so many just now that it's really exciting to watch. I don't know which, whatever 3 rise to the top probably between the featherweight and lightweight division. I'll have done very well, put it that way. For anybody to hold the featherweight belt or the lightweight belt over the next, couple of shows, they've fought some real good guys to get that. You know what I mean? Justin, as you say, he's fought Alan Philpott. He's going to be fighting Diego. Diego's just fought Alan Philpott as well. In the lightweight division, you've got Blake Donnelly. David Martinez is looking fantastic these days. The improvements in his striking over the last couple of years is it's unbelievable, actually. I'm blown away by him. He looks like a completely different fighter. And Blake Donnelly, I was blown away with his boxing and speed of his jab against John Brune in Eternal 70. So I think, the the people to watch, if I was to pick one person, it would be Stephen Erceg. And I would say for the other two, I would say just keep your eye at the top of that featherweight and that lightweight division, because, you know, it's a murderer's row of people that are all crawling over each other to get a shot at that belt. So the one that holds it is going to, you know, deserve it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and also, you know, in the big leagues, who are your sort of top three to watch, Aussies to watch up there?
Casey O'Neill, of course. If I don't say that,
Well played, well played.
She's going to bash me, and I'm actually scared of her these days. But, but no, I obviously see Casey in the gym, and I've seen her over the years, and I know how good she actually is. She's 9-0. 4-0 in the UFC with 3 finishes and ranked number 10. And I don't think she's had one performance yet that even comes close to showing how good she actually is. The level of jiu-jitsu and wrestling that she's got is, you know, but it blows me away, especially, you know, in an MMA environment. It's just next level. So I think she's definitely one to watch. Jack Della, of course. You know, the man can't get a fight just now. You know, he's fucking newbie into the UFC this year. And if he can get a fight before the end of the year, I'm pretty sure he'll do the same as what Casey done last year when she picked up the Rookie of the Year from the UFC and all the news outlets. At the mid-year point this year, Jack Della was the Rookie of the Year with UFC and all the news outlets. So that's pretty cool for Eternal that if Jack ends up getting it at the end of the year this year, that's 2 years in a row we've put the Rookie of the Year in there. I think Jack Della's, you know, it's a matter of time before he gets that welterweight title. He's, you know, I don't see anybody in that division really giving him a problem, and that division's fucking stacked. I think Jack Della is actually that good everywhere, and I don't know what the 3 you said. Well, I don't know if it's new talent in there like Casey and Jack. You know, I'd say obviously Jack Jenkins, I've got high expectations of him, or even Jake Matthews looked reinvigorated in his last fight as well, and really exciting.
Yeah.
The likes of Jimmy Crute's going to be coming back from injury. He's one of my favourite fighters. I don't think I could list it to 3. And obviously at the top end of the division, we've got Izzy and Volkanovski. You know, I think we should just watch all the Aussies. And Kiwis, of course.
definitely, and another one was I don't know who asked this one actually, but what's your funniest sort of blooper or crazy moment from behind the scenes at an Eternal show?
I think if you'll notice the Jack Becker fight against Dan Hill, when I went in to present the belt, I didn't have the belt with me because I'd left it. and I didn't realise I went to pick it up and take it into the cage with me. So I walked into the cage and you see me walking straight over to Jack and whispering in his ear, I fucking forgot the belt. And you notice the belt doesn't get put on. That's one of my favourite ones. I can't remember the fight, but there's one where it's either Jack Becker or Rod Costa punches the fence when Ben's on the other side. It
was Rod after we fought.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. He like full punches the fence as Ben's against it. That's one of the funnier ones.
that was pretty good.
I actually saw him walk over and hit the thing, and I seen Ben snap back, and I was like, "Did he just punch his coach? What the fuck?" That's a good one.
They two moments are pretty fresh, so you know I remember them. But there's probably plenty, you know, for the first few years that I was doing this. It was just fun, you know. It was just great. After the show, I would go out and spend all the profits that night after the show, just with everyone. It was brilliant. So there's probably so many bloopers from back then. It's unbelievable. But in the last few years, there's some crackers, but there too that was caught on camera.
There you go. What about you, Lockjaw? You seen any sort of wild stuff unfold backstage?
Yeah, it's been some fucking weird moments. Not weird moments, but like some funny sort of things. Like I fought one of the shows I fought on. I could say this now because it's a while ago. So when I fought Aiden Maroki, I walked out to the cage, got all the way to the check-in point, they did like they did the little pat down, did the VAS, and then I think it was Nakia was doing the check, like the pat down or whatever. And he goes, "Hey, got your mouth guard?" And I'm like, "Yep." And he's like, "You got your groin guard?" And I went to tap my groin, and I realized I didn't have my groin guard, and I was like, "Yep, got my groin guard." I fought that whole fight with no groin guard. In the second round, Aiden Moroki tried to knock my face off my body completely, and at one stage threw a kick, and it hit me straight in the nutsack. And at that point, I think I shot a takedown and was lucky enough to get him across the cage and get him down, and I could recover that little bit. But yeah, I fought without a groin guard. That was weird. And one other one that sticks out was I fought on the same card as Brenton Mumford, and we were out the back, and we were sort of joking around. We were in the same corner, and we were just having a joke about who's going to get the faster finish. Or what's going to happen. And I believe it's when I fought Aaron Fisher when I made my pro debut on Eternal 26, and I subbed him, and then Mumford came out later on in the card, and I think he spinning heel kicked Greg Atsori and beat me by a couple seconds for the faster finish. So I had to shout him a bunch of drinks at the after party and all that sort of shit like that. But yeah, yeah, stuff like that. There's always fun moments like that. But I mean, yeah. I don't know. There's always I guess it's hard sometimes behind the scenes to kind of relate to people what that's like, but it is always, there's always some funny sort of moments and just raw emotional moments that people probably don't understand. For context for people, when we fight, we've got to, as soon as we're done, whether you win or lose, you got to go out the back, you got to go see the doctor. And for some people that probably don't realize, a lot of the time, you're sitting there next to the guy that you just fought. And if you're the person that won, cool, good for you. But your opponent, someone they might have just lost, and you're watching that person go through the exact same or a different range of emotion. And if someone's looking in from the outside view, just picture there's two people sitting there in one room, but they're on the same planet, but there's two different worlds playing out right in front of you. So shit like that, sometimes I have to take a step back and sort of I try and, I'm at that point now where I just absorb everything around me, but there's stuff like that happens behind the scenes that you just you're just oh man, this is crazy. This is stuff that I'm getting to see play out. And, I guess another point of view of that is seeing all the craziness. I get to see the craziness behind the scenes sometimes of, Cam and everyone that he's got working for him and that he's got sort of behind the scenes happening, dealing with all these things that are happening. It's just crazy, man. People are running back and forth everywhere. They got to make sure the fighters are ready. Gloves are checked. If you got this, if you got that, they've got to get people ready to, go out there and perform. And you're just seeing people going crazy, and you just sort of think, man, I'm happy. I just have to get my hands wrapped and then go out there and punch someone's face in, because this shit looks crazy. The stuff that people have to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's it for fan questions. You've got anything for you want to put to Cam?
I guess if you get to a point where, and I think that it's sort of heading in that direction, like you were saying. Do you think in the next sort of, let's say 3 to 5 years, we will get to a point with Eternal where, like you said, across the divisions from flyweight to heavyweight, with, especially with the amateur talent that you got coming through, you look at some of the fights, the amateur fights that are happening on Eternal, and you see the level of some of these fights and how well they're matched. And, you're seeing some people come out there and perform like they're experienced pros. So do you think that it's going to get to a point where we're going to have those established divisions with established talent pools, with established rankings, and then you're going to be sitting there looking back at how it is now, going, we're in a really good cool spot then, and we were killing it. Now we've got a stacked flyweight division, a stacked bantamweight division, and we've got active people across the division, and we're putting together all these fights, and it's sort of you got a champion, and you got people who are consistently fighting, and you think it's going to get to that point, or you think it's just that with that talent rising through from the amateur ranks?
I don't think we're going to get to that point with the pro ranks in Australia. I just don't think that we've got the population to support it.
Yeah.
Not for a period of time anyway, across all the divisions. Definitely not across all divisions, and still most likely not across all male divisions.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to a 10-year plan, and that's probably something that, I hadn't even said either, but the idea is that we'll move to a full pro model on Eternal, and proving grounds will develop the amateur talent as well. So we'll use that for so that we can identify talent, scout them, identify them, put them on the show, see how they perform, watch how they move through the hierarchy of their amateur career, gather some media on them, get them a little following and move them on into Eternal after that. You know, look, that's the way that the model is looking to trend, a very simplified explanation of it. You know, we'll cultivate everyone in proving grounds. We'll do everything in terms of teaching them about the media sale and stuff like that. Then we'll move them into Eternal, where all of a sudden they'll have a nice little social media following. They'll have fought in Eternal before, proving grounds before, so the Eternal audience should know them, and we'll put people through that way. Now, when we do that, the idea with Eternal is that we'll have a certain number of exclusive athletes in every single division, in the divisions that we're operating. Each of those athletes, like the exclusive contracts that we're giving out just now, but not in the same volume that we will have to when we move to this model, has a number of fights per year. So we'll have to look at the rosters and the number of events that we're having per year, the number of contracted fights that we've offered to people that are exclusive, to work out how many fighters that we can actually have on the roster to satisfy the contractual obligations that we have with them. That's not only having 10 events a year. We are not going to be able to have every division full. We'd have to probably look at the likes of the model that the WEC or even Bushido in Japan used, where they identify 3 or 4 weight classes and just fucking go hell for leather.
Focus on them,
in that division. Then all of a sudden your audience is getting the familiarity of the people who are contracted fighting a few times throughout the year. There's the narrative of the hierarchy of the division with the rest of the contracted athletes, and you know, it should really help with the amount of attention and focus it's on the smaller group of people like that. So the question simplified is no, Eternal isn't looking to do that when we don't think it would be sustainable in Australia with the population that we've got just now. Because realistically, what would you need to have? You know, you've got so many promotions, you know, you would need at minimum, you know, to have your top 10 in every division. We couldn't even probably have 10 in the flyweight division just now. We definitely couldn't have 10 in the light heavyweight or the heavyweight, and it's not going to get there in the next 3 or 5 years.
Yeah, right. So you feel like the just the talent pool's a little bit thin to be able to kind of have full rankings.
The level of talent in Australia, I think, is exceptional compared to every other country in the world. When you look at how we perform everywhere, you know, with fighters in the UFC and in other major organisations, but even in the smaller organisations, when people from the Australian scene go over, they always compete very well. So the talent pool, the level is very, very high. It's very, very shallow. You know, it's just we're a small country. Well, we're a huge country with a small population. You know, it's just difficult. You know, we're not one of the tier 1, 2, or 3 sports. You know, the majority of people coming through as kids are going to gravitate towards other sports, and the ones that are extremely athletic and naturally gifted have probably been identified by the AFL and the NRL teams well before they even understand what jiu-jitsu is or MMA. So I really don't think Australia is going to get to that stage where we'll get deep competitive professional divisions in every weight class.
Do you feel like we can get to a point where we can sort of bring, I guess, international talent over to sort of to fill out cards? I know a few promotions have kind of toyed with the idea, but is that something that's sort of on your radar?
No, not at all. But we're going to have to. When I say no, not at all, it's not. I wish I didn't have to do it. You know, our aim is to develop Australian MMA, not Malaysian MMA, Thai MMA, or Japanese MMA. You know, our commitment in this area is to develop the talent, and that's our business plan. Our business plan is to have talented fighters in the areas that we operate that are popular and attract people to come and watch them. Occasions we have had to bring foreign fighters in. For example, Eternal 48, Casey fought against Mickey Matono, who was a 3-0 strawweight from Japan, had fought in Deep, etc. And Casey was 3-0 in Australia at the time, and I thought that was the correct fight to do. Casey was a strawweight in Australia, and we'd been trying to get professional strawweight or flyweight fights from Australian or New Zealand fighter, and we couldn't get them. But there just wasn't anybody to fight. So we went out and we looked for the best, match that we could for her. So Mickey Matono was a jiu-jitsu black belt, judo black belt, 3-0. Casey was 3-0. It was a fantastic fight. And it was a tough fight, and it was competitive. But a lot of these other people that you're bringing in, you asked, and sorry, I won't jump away from that. And did that help Australian MMA? Well, it would have helped Australian MMA a lot better if Casey had fought against a competitive Australian athlete. That was just something that we had to do. And if Casey wasn't my daughter, would I have done it? Probably not. Would I bring in somebody from any country that I'd never ever seen before, had absolutely no inclination on watching them or promoting their fight, just to make a match against a local on a card in Australia? No, it's definitely not what it do. It doesn't benefit. Well, in my opinion, it doesn't benefit anybody. The kid who currently doesn't have an opponent might not get a fight, but I think you find a lot of these people that are getting brought in as cannon fodder. And that's what's happening, because it's so hard to find out anything about them as well. And you think to yourself, well, why? Why are they going and doing that? Why would you do that? It's mad to me. It's completely and utterly fucking mad to me. And I don't even know what to say about it, to tell you the truth. I really don't, And I think the fact that there is no MMA mainstream media in Australia allows it to happen, because it wouldn't happen in the UK. See, if some of that shit happened in the UK, the social media would be ripping some of these matches to pieces. We've got a guy that's 0-4 and hasn't fought in 8 years fighting this guy who's 6-0 and sold 500 tickets. You're like, fucking hell. It's madness.
It is, yeah. We've seen a little bit of it. What do you make of all that, Lockjaw?
Yeah, well, you know me, man. I'm always gonna I've fucking constantly on this, especially on our podcast. I just rip into shit like that, because I can. And like I say, Cam, my thought process is I'm gonna say what I say, and if you don't like it, we can fight about it. There's the eternal cage we can step into. And
I'm not fighting anyone. I'm too fucking old.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what weight division it is either. No, but I can't relate to that in any way. I don't see why you don't want to go and fight the best people available and competitors that you can get in there with, and that kind of cemented it more to me even when I moved here to freestyle. It's Volk from his run locally to getting into the UFC, it's just been, and I think all the athletes that we've got in the UFC now are doing the same sort of thing. Like they're fighting the people in front of them, the top people, the most tough matchups they can to build themselves up and earn their place and make themselves undeniable. And I feel like that's what you got to do. So when I see these promotions put together some of these matchups, and you're seeing someone that's stepping in there with one of these people, and there's no business having these matchups together. And on the weekend we saw that a bit at a promotion in Melbourne. You're seeing these people just they're flying people in to just get beat, really. And what does that do? What does that do for anyone? Even the person winning the fight, it doesn't really do much for you, because at the end of the day, whether you realize it or not, or the people around you tell you, or kind of they're not relating it to you, but your confidence and your self-belief and your sort of ego and where you place yourself is it's being put on a pedestal that's not realistic, because you're not getting realistic sort of, I guess, outcomes or tests put in your way. If you step in there with someone who's a competitive matchup for you, and you go out there and you perform and you get the win, then you have a realistic, sort of outcome, and you go, okay, and you go, okay, now I have to build from this, and I have to grow from this. You go out there and just smoke someone in under a minute who shouldn't have been in there in the first place with you. When it comes around, when you have to stand in there and there's someone in front of you who isn't going away, and they're giving you every sort of hurdle or bit of adversity that they can, and all of a sudden you're sitting there going, what the fuck? My last 3 fights, I just smoked these people, I ran through them, but now you're fighting someone who's legit, and they're a real matchup or a really talented individual, and things aren't going your way. I think, that's when you see people get exposed, and more often than not, these people fall off. We've seen it happen at a regional level. You've seen it happen at a top level. Once you're in there with someone and you're fighting people who are legit, and and the matchups are actually put together that they need to be put together, you're going to get exposed. You can't hide that in there. So, yeah, I mean, that's not something I can relate to. I've always been, I think it's pretty clear. I've always been big on, I just fight whoever. And if they say, like, this is the person that's, like, the toughest matchup for you, then I'm going to go out there and fight them and find out. Like, that's kind of how it should be. You go out there and fight, earn your place, make yourself undeniable. So people can't, so no one across any level can say anything. No one can be like, oh, well, you don't deserve this or you don't deserve that. People are just looking, going, well, fuck, this guy got himself there. He fought whoever was there, and that's it.
Yeah, look, the best thing for Australian MMA is Australian fighters fighting Australian fighters, and everybody getting more opportunities, and everyone getting tested against people at the same level as themselves, and getting to find their level. But yeah, it's not my jam. Not my jam.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully your jam is Fight Talk Down Under episode 31, which of course will be back next week. Hopefully, we did miss last week, unfortunately, but we'll be back. We'll probably talk beatdown promotions, maybe some boxing, some more fan questions, all that sort of good stuff. Of course, catch my interview. I caught up with the new Eternal Lightweight Champion, Dave Martinez, a week or two ago. So that's on Fight News Australia YouTube. He obviously reflects on his win over Aiden Aguilera and sort of regaining his title. And let us know if you have a question for next week's episode. The details will be below if you're watching on YouTube. It's at Dan Meehan MMA on Twitter or at Lockjaw MMA on Instagram. Of course, follow our Instagram page at Fight Talk Down Under. And remember to like and subscribe, YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podbean, Fight News Australia, and iHeartRadio. Cam, have you got anything you want to get off your chest? Anyone you want to thank? Anything you want to promote? The floor is yours.
No, look, I'm all good. Just thanks to you guys for having me on, and I don't do many podcasts or anything, so I hope I didn't just talk a load of rubbish. But look, thanks to Australian MMA for the last 10 years for Eternal. Just thanks to everybody that's bought a ticket, watched the stream, booed, screamed, fought in the show, whatever. Thank you.
Awesome. And Lockjaw, what do you want to take us off with?
Yeah, like, I don't know, man, just like keep fucking supporting Australian MMA across the board, from the amateurs all the way to the pros. So I want to keep seeing people do that, because at the end of the day, that's what we need. Obviously, December 2nd, Eternal 72, fighting Diego Pereira. So if you're in the area, buy a fucking ticket, come to the show. If you're not, UFC Fight Pass, you can still watch it. And if your name is Khan Offley, you can suck a dick.
I gotta watch it, you never know what might stop you. Here I am, climbing up,